On another exciting episode of the Animation Deliberation podcast, we are covering our news from April 7th to April 13th. Right after these ads, we have no control over.
Sing along if you know the words. A 1, 2, 3, it's time for Animation Deliberation. A conversation and a celebration of our favorite action animated series. Yeah.
Yeah, welcome back to another episode of Animation Deliberation, the podcast where we take action, animation, and cartoons seriously, but not too seriously. We are your hosts. I'm Zuhair Ali.
My name's Jay Scotty St. Clair.
And I am Andrew Rogers.
And one of these days, with how much I do air guitar while that song is going on, we're going to have a riff to this.
If only I could play the actual guitar and it didn't just have to be an air guitar, that'd make things a lot easier.
I think we should record it, with us not knowing how to play guitar.
I have a ukulele. We could do it live one week. That would just be the most racket thing you've ever heard. But it could
tap into a more mellow tempo for that.
I think that's the chaos that just fits appropriately to how we operate.
Indeed.
All right, so we got a lot of news to cover, and before we start, I do have to say that I am very jealous of Jay Scotty this week. We had a lot of Star Wars news drop, and he is part of our wonderful panel at Multiverse News, which is another Stranded Panda show, so please be sure to check that out every week. But we're going to dive deep with the Star Wars stuff. And in Star Wars animation, the first bit of news that we got that's very close to stuff that we just covered is Bad Batch Season 3 is finally getting their final season. How are we feeling?
It's starting to sound like Attack on Titan here. Final season. Those are some big words. I don't know.
We'll actually get release dates. And it'll end when it's supposed to end.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning that most of this news that we're discussing, actually all this news that we're discussing in terms of Star Wars is coming out of Star Wars Celebration, which just wrapped in London. So I said it on the Multiverse News episode that you plugged at the top there. But yeah, coming off of Season 2, the fact that we're getting the announcement for Season 3 so quickly, and we know that it's the final season, don't get me wrong, I would love for this show to keep going and see more of it, but it does give me hope that there is an end in sight and they're not going to waste their time getting there. Apart from that, the biggest takeaway for me is that they did announce that Fennec Shan is going to be returning, and I so look forward to more action sequences with her because those were some of the most thrilling moments of Season 1, and I think that was kind of missed in Season 2 a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's nice to know that they had a plan, that it's like, okay, this is going to be 3 seasons and that's it. We're not going to drag it out. We're not going to pretend that it's something that it's not. This is the story they want to tell, and this is how long they're going to tell. I'm perfectly okay with that, and I'm hopeful that means there's going to be a nice conclusion as opposed to a sloppy, oh, we have to finish up now. Like, they know that it's going to be the end.
Yeah. I don't think we can ever get enough of Ming-Na Wen, so having her back is going to be wonderful, especially with the action sequences that we got in Season 1 with her a lot. I am glad that they're not going to drag this along, because as I said a lot for Season 2, I got tired of the filler-heavy episodes. So the way that the last season ended, it seems like they have a clear mission, and I don't see too much going off the beaten path from that. I feel like it's going to be very mission heavy because of the circumstances that they're in. They could prove me wrong and still find some filler missions. It's where it's like, hey, I'll get you this if you get me this type of stuff that just never becomes relevant again. And this doesn't mean that we don't see the Bad Batch ever again. They could pop up in other stories, but I do like that their specific story is just going to properly wrap up, hopefully for the better for them. And just, the Star Wars universe is a huge one. There's a lot of stories to tell. There's a lot of other characters to focus on. So if they're going into these things having a plan, like how apparently they have with Filoni doing a wrap up of Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and Book of Boba, then by all means, have a plan, stick with it, be happy with the content that you're putting out, and then just move on to the next big character that we get to be introduced to.
Yeah, I know we need to move on here, but my final thought, I'm really glad you actually mentioned that film that's coming from David Filoni.
I couldn't not.
Dave Filoni, rather. Yeah, but it makes me think we had the conversation on here. Do we want to see the Bad Batch translated to live action? And part of our hesitation was, no, we don't want spoilers for their fates. But if the series is going to wrap up with a third season, it just kind of like feels like it expedites that process and frees them up from a possible appearance in maybe that film or some of the live action series that are just around the corner.
Hmm.
All
Star
right.
Wars was not shy with any animated news that we were getting, and the next thing up on our docket is Visions Volume 2. Maybe this will encourage me to finally finish it. I always end up watching Ninth Jedi over and over again and then never hit the next button. But
Yes.
for I did watch the trailer. It does look really intriguing. I
Mm-hmm.
am going to have my bar set a little bit lower for this one because I think I was just like through the roof last time.
Mm-hmm.
And by lower, I'm not going to mean that it is low. Like, I do look forward to this. There's a lot of interesting things going on here, but I was completely derailed last time. But for the two people who actually did finish Volume 1, how are you guys feeling about 2?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the trailer. I think it's interesting that the first volume really did have such a focus on anime. I think all the entries qualified as anime in some form or another, and this one is really just kind of branching out and showing us different forms of animation. I think there are a couple that are doing stop motion. There are
Mm-hmm.
some that harken to more like, for lack of a better term, kind of like cutesy computer generated models and whatnot, and even some of them kind of remind me of like some of like the cartoons from like the late 90s and early 2000s and their stylization. So, and they're coming to us from studios like from all over the globe. So just like kind of like looking at the list of episodes and the associated studios, I'll let Andrew say his piece before I go through all of them. But just, we've got Ireland being represented, UK, South Korea, and South Africa that I can confirm. And who knows about some of these other studios?
Yeah, I couldn't echo those sentiments more. I'm super excited for this. It's no secret I loved the first season of the show, and like you said, it was a lot more anime. This feels like you said it's a globetrotting affair, but almost like the first season must have been successful because the budget
Okay.
feels through the roof for this second season. Like it seems
Mm,
like they got some big names to come and do this. So it looks nothing if not beautiful. They didn't really give us any of the story in the trailer, which is fine because those stories are probably going to be so short. But
hmm
yeah, there's just a full spectrum of if you're a fan of any animation over the years, you're probably going to find something in that trailer that triggers some nostalgia piece of your brain to be like, wait, I've seen this before, but where is it? Like you can't quite place it, but you just know that it's that familiar homey feeling. And yeah,
hmm
I'm super excited to see what these studios have to bring. And as much as I'm disappointed we're not getting more anime studios, I'm excited to see what these other studios bring to the table because it was a very specific type of anime style storytelling. I'm
hmm
wondering if that's going to change this time around now that it's not specifically these Japanese writers behind the scenes.
Or maybe just not as many of those.
That's
It'll be
true.
Yeah.
like diversified.
Yeah. So we did get a listing of the 9 episodes and the studios that will be bringing them to life. And, I do have to admit, I'm slightly disappointed that none of these seem to obviously be a follow up to The Ninth Jedi, but I am still holding out hope. I'm going in, I'll be pleased with that. Well, I'll be open minded to whatever they present, but based on the
I'm
trailer, I think I'm going to be pretty pleased, but
I'm just
still
gonna
holding
hope
out
that that
hope.
means that Ninth Jedi is just gonna be its own thing.
Maybe, yeah, that's actually a really good point. Maybe it will be. Maybe they want to hold that one closer to the vest there and adapt it in some other way. But let's run through the list real quickly. So we have Sith coming to us from El Giri, Screecher's Reach from Cartoon Saloon, which is based out of Ireland, In the Stars from Punk Robot, I Am Your Mother by Aardman Animations, which is the UK-based studio known for Wallace and Gromit, some famous stop motion animation there. Journey to the Dark Head from Studio Mir, which is based in South Korea and is known for the fourth season of The Boondocks, The Legend of Korra, and the Voltron, the Legendary Defender series on Netflix. The Spy Dancer from Studio La Cachette. The Bandits of Golak from 88 Pictures. The Pit from D'Art Shitaigio and Lucasfilm. Nice collaboration there. And finally, Eu's Song from Triggerfish, which is based in South Africa.
Hmm. Legend of Korra definitely stands out to me. I
Mm-hmm.
was a huge fan of that series and the action animation, and it was incredible. So just because of that reputation alone, that one stands out. And now I'm interested in the Pit because it reminds me of Andy Dwyer from Parks and Rec. We all fell in the pit.
That's great.
It's no secret we love Parks and Rec around here. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving on to one that I am very excited for. We are getting Star Wars Rebels Season 5, which they are just calling Ahsoka instead. So we are getting a continuation of the Rebel storyline. It seems to be very heavy on finding Ezra and the return of Thrawn. We're seeing a lot of the characters from Rebels that we love in their live action forms. I was so giddy to see Hera and Sabine and Chopper, and it's the bar is high for this one. Rebels is an incredible series that I absolutely love. It has some of the best Star Wars storytelling that there is, and the fact that we get a little extension of this, I'm very happy.
Yeah, I think my big thing is seeing it's Lars Mikkelsen, right? Because
Correct.
Mads is already in Rogue One. So yeah, Lars
Mm-hmm.
coming back to reprise this role in live action. I don't know if there's anyone that can do quite as dark as he did with that original Thrawn. So yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
super excited to see him reprise this role and most likely knock it out of the park and make my skin crawl the entire time. But I'm a little hesitant because I've just recently finished Rebels. I love it, but it's the fact that it feels like required viewing that is a little. I almost wish they did something unique for those of us who just want to enjoy the Ahsoka story without having to consume a bunch of other things.
Sucks to suck.
I'll try not to take that personally because that was
I
one
was
of
just
my
about to say,
that
I've at
was
least done it.
that was one of my big takeaways too. Is like, and I'm not even saying it negatively. I'm kind of like in some ways grateful that I'm more motivated to watch Rebels now because it's been recommended to me many times, but now it
Do it.
does very much feel like required viewing. And I knew Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who's one of my favorite performers, was going to show up in this series. But as soon as she got cast, I was like, got to be some bad guy, some form of Imperial or something like that. And to have her, don the green makeup and the prosthetic Twi'lek tentacles, it's pretty great. Like I was just impressed to see her take on that role, and I echo the sentiments from you, Andrew, regarding Lars Mikkelsen. It's just awesome when you get to see someone that originated a role, especially in animation, have the opportunity to translate that to live action. So, yeah, I thought the trailer looked, appropriately epic, and yeah, I'm excited to see this one when it finally debuts.
WandaVision definitely was an experiment for Disney Plus, where it's like, let's see how many people we can get to watch a show before a theatrical release. And clearly, it worked out to the point that they're milking it because we talked about the Dave Filoni stuff that's coming out.
Hmm.
That's like you have to watch multiple seasons of multiple shows just to understand this movie.
Hmm.
So yes, it is a lot for the casual fan, but like it's just so exciting overall because there's so much development that when they get this big budget they can just cut right to it.
Cut the check.
Cut the check. I will help fund it. Now, an extension of what I thought was arguably the best Star Wars content that we got next year, we are getting more Tales of the Jedi.
Woo!
All right.
Woohoo!
I'm just gonna flat out say it. I called what I wanted in the first season of Tales of the Jedi, and they gave it to me in droves because I
Hmm.
said I want young Dooku before he goes to the dark side, and they gave it to me, and I loved it. So this time, I'm just throwing it into the ether. I'll take a Plo Koon story, if you would. Just cut
Okay.
that right in. Show us how he survived Order 66, if you would, and then what the rest of his fate after that is. That's my wish. But I do, jokes aside, want to see where they go and if they are kind of putting more bows on more stories, because that's kind of what the first season felt like. Was let's fill in some holes. There are
Mhm.
some other characters, and I think I know who Jay Scotty's going to say if I ask him
Uh,
what Jedi he wants to see. So
oh, you
I'll
you
let him take it.
I see your Plo Koon and I raise you one Quinlan Voss.
Yep, there it is.
That was my wish first time go around, and it was interesting that like I feel like I had mentioned him not a week prior, and then he kind of got a name drop on Obi-Wan. So
Hmm.
feels like the creators know that his name is out there in the ether, and I won't put all my hope and expectation in it, but it would be really nice to see. Like I kind of said with the first one, I really enjoyed getting to have young Dooku kind of fleshed out, and especially that heartbreaking scene with Yaddle, and as well as Ahsoka to get to see a little bit more of her journey. But with a title like Tales of the Jedi, I would like to see more diversity and maybe some Jedi that we have not spent as much time with.
So I guess I'm just gonna completely counteract everything you just said right there because I want more of Kanan Jarrus, who is one
Okay.
of the main characters in Rebels. I want to see
Mm.
him, during his ventures before Order 66.
Okay.
And, just like another Padawan route and how his teachings went and just more of that realm of like right before. I don't know if I need 3 episodes of it, but I would like to see more of an expansion of his story.
Hmm.
Because he was also the same Jedi that showed up right at the beginning of Bad Batch.
Correct.
Yes,
Hmm.
okay.
Which I can't remember who the teacher was, and he was also in the last no, not the last episode. The episode of Tales of the Jedi where Ahsoka was doing like the clone training.
Oh yeah, he was just
Kanan and
hanging
his
out.
teacher were in the bleachers, like
Oh,
watching her
that's right.
testing. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like we're getting little tidbits of him, and now I just want like just the story stretched out a little more because he's a
That's a
fascinating character. I admire him greatly.
All right. Well, Filoni Favreau, we know you're listening. Thank you for being great supporters. Yeah, just write to us if you want more ideas.
hmm.
We're not short of them. Last bit of Star Wars news that we have is an apparent Ghibli project. What do you have for us on that, Andrew?
Yes. So there's no actual confirmation of any of this, but as many will know, back in the fall, I think it was in November, Studio Ghibli partnered up with Lucasfilm and they came out with a little Grogu and the Dust Bunny short. It was like a 6-minute little thing, and it was adorable. It was just the little Ghibli Dust Bunnies playing around with Grogu, using the Force. So much fun. And I believe it was this past weekend, Studio Ghibli tweeted out kind of cryptic tweet. I say cryptic because there was no information, wherein there's a picture that someone hand drew in the same, hand done animation style that they're known for of Ahsoka with some of these dust bunnies. So it's this question of, are they just showing support to Star Wars celebrations and all these things, or is there something greater at play? Because they did announce last fall before the Grogu short, hey, we have a partnership going on. They never actually said to what extent it was going to be. Is it multiple shorts? Is it going to be something bigger? We don't know, but it's one of those things that I want to speak into existence. So I thought it was kind of newsworthy because it was super cool to see Ahsoka in the Ghibli style, and I want more of that.
I can tell you what it's going to be.
Give it to
It's
me.
going to be Lethalcats playing with dust bunnies.
Oh my god, I love it. I actually don't hate it at all.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the story. Enjoy your 2-minute content.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say on this one because there's not a lot of information to glean from it, but it would be absolutely amazing if we got a feature length Studio Ghibli Star Wars, had a, you know, whatever it is, if they want to make a movie or a limited series or what have you. Just I don't even I don't have any demands or any expectations.
Yeah.
Just give me whatever the amazing imaginations and minds have over there that they want to bring to life. I'm open for it. Yeah.
Just
So
make my
you're
eyes
telling me
happy.
you don't want my Jedi Totoro? That's not what you're asking for?
I'll take it.
It'll be that Wookiee Jedi too.
There we go.
Was
Just
it
imagining
Gungi?
the cat bus fighting against a bunch of TIE fighters.
Give it to us now. All right, so that's it from all of our news from Star Wars Celebration. Our eyes are just set to May 4th and Volume 2 of Star Wars Visions. So we got
Hmm.
some news that really surprised me, and that is with Mario's opening weekend, they are now the highest grossing animated film opening in history. It beat out Frozen 2,
Hmm.
making 204.6 million domestic and 377 million globally.
Wow.
Yeah,
A lot
impressive.
of
And
success.
I think we're all wondering, like, why didn't they do this sooner? Like, Mario and Nintendo have such a rich body of work and characters to pull from. So, the love for Mario is strong. So yeah, coming in at 204.6 million domestic and 377 million global is nothing to sniff at.
Hmm.
And not only is it, the highest grossing animation opening weekend of all time, it's actually the highest grossing opening weekend period for 2023. It actually beat out Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So
Wow.
to overtake a Marvel film, even with the perhaps lukewarm reception to that film, is pretty impressive.
Take that,
And
animation haters.
yeah, and in addition to this monster of an opening weekend it had, speaking of monsters, uh, one of my favorite parts of the movie that I've been on record saying is Jack Black's performance as Bowser, and the fact that he got to play around with his musical stylings. There have been reports coming out that the song he performs in the movie as Bowser, Peaches, will be eligible for Oscar consideration. So, Academy, it's early on in the year, but what is right. Do it.
Do they though?
I honestly, at the very least, I think he should just perform it at the Oscars. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
he doesn't even need the award, just let him perform it live on stage
Yeah.
for all of it. Like, he deserves the credit because Jack Black brought so much to that movie.
Definitely.
I will say, not to take the highs from Mario. Do you think it's going to be dethroned? Because I have a feeling if people are willing to shell out this money for Mario, that Spider Verse is about to knock this record out of the park.
If
Ooh.
someone's gonna do it, I think
Yeah,
it could and deserves to be that.
if anyone, it's going to be Spider Verse, and I'm really curious how big the marketing push is about to be to see if they can take this back, so
You
to
know,
speak.
that is actually a very fascinating question, and I find myself kind of torn. I feel like the movie's greatest asset is also what might detract from that happening. It's the fact that it's a sequel. It's got the love for the first one going into it, but sequels historically have a hard time replicating at least in an opening weekend, the same success as the first one. So,
Hmm.
you know,
I'll be intrigued.
yeah, likewise.
Yeah, I don't think people necessarily have to be happy with a sequel, but with the hype that the first one provided, like the opening box office will definitely be there.
Mm,
But still, props to Mario for doing this like as a standalone thing. We
definitely.
do have more conversation to be had with that, with some of our feedback. But we're going to finish up our news, and before we do that, we're going to take a quick break to talk to you guys about the BlendJet. The BlendJet 2 is a portable blender so you can blend up a smoothie at work, a protein shake at the gym, or even a margarita on the beach. It's
Ooh,
small enough
ooh.
to fit in a cup holder, but powerful enough to blast through those tough ingredients like ice and frozen fruit with ease. BlendJet 2 is whisper quiet, so you can make your morning smoothie without waking up the whole house, lasts for 15 plus blends, and recharges quickly via USB C. Best of all, BlendJet 2 cleans itself. Just blend water with a drop of soap, and you are good to go. I gotta say, like I told you guys, like I had shoulder surgery earlier this year. So coming home from physical therapy, like I'm not about to grab my blender bottle and use my burned out, torn up shoulder to try to get my protein fix in. So when my tired ass gets home, it is very nice to just take this this BlendJet out, pop in a scoop of protein, add in banana, strawberries, hit that button, good to go. Tastes amazing every time.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's the fact that you say, you could sit down, plop that scoop in there, that you're not tied to the kitchen, that it's portable, that you can sit on
Yeah,
the couch, pull up your favorite anime, watch something with the blend jet. I think
yeah.
that's, an invaluable experience nobody's really gonna think about
I'm like
most of the time.
holding it by the lane because you just got to press the button once and it does a 20-second cycle. So I'm like holding it by the lanyard, walking down to the TV like as it's doing its thing. So it's like ready by the time I sit down.
Yeah, yeah, and I that's a great point, Andrew. It's kind of like my own similar experience with it. I live I have roommates, so I don't have a kitchen to myself. So sometimes when I walk into the kitchen in the morning, it's kind of a crowded place, and I find myself, wanting to crawl back into my bed or go back to my room for a little bit of privacy. So I got to take my blend jet, put the chocolate, peanut butter, banana protein smoothie in there, add a little bit of oat milk and blend it up and take it back and enjoy it. And then the cleanup was just a breeze. So it's worth mentioning that they have like 33 different patterns to choose from. So you can represent your favorite animated fandoms, including like a whole Toy Story line. I personally decided to go with a little more subdued. I went with the slate, but it
Ah.
is it is just it makes my life so convenient.
Yeah, I saw the options, and as the animation post, like I went straight towards Buzz Lightyear and just instantly went for that. Like nostalgia just took over. I'm like, I need it.
Yeah.
Personally, I went with the lavender. No
Ah,
surprise to anyone who
good.
knows me. Had to get my, little Espeon feelings coming out. Had
Okay.
to have that little bit of purple in my life.
So we need to get you
Nice.
some decals so that you can like customize it yourself.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean we
Yeah.
stick them on the hydro flask and all those other water bottles. Why not stick them on our blend jets?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you heard it from us. What are you waiting for? Go to blendjet.com and grab yours today. And be sure to use the promo code STAYWHELM12 to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. No other portable blender on the market comes close to the quality, power, and innovation of the BlendJet 2. They guarantee you'll love it or your money back. Blend anytime, anywhere with the BlendJet 2 portable blender. Go to blendjet.com and use the code STAYWHELM12 to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. Shop today and get the best deal ever.
It's almost beach season if you guys want to make some margaritas on the go too.
Oh, I cannot wait to give my review of the Margarita Power when beach season comes around. You know it. I just wasn't about to start making margaritas on my way to work this week. That didn't seem like a great idea.
We got the little like cookbook with it too, so I was actually just
Yeah,
like flipping through that the other day, and like there's a few of the coffee recipes that I really want to try, but I don't have an espresso machine, so it's like I've been picking out the chilled ones, but there's a lot of interesting things on there. It's really cool.
definitely.
For
Yeah.
sure.
All right, so continuing on with our news, Demon Slayer has finally made its return. The 60-minute episode that we got in theaters is what dropped this week on Sunday. I
Hmm.
have been listening to that opening song all week. It is addicting. They are 3 for 3 on them. I am so excited this is back, and I'm so excited that we're going to start covering this weekly.
It was 60 minutes? I legitimately did not know how long it was when we saw it in the theater.
I think it was 48 minutes if memory serves. Credits. Credits.
Credits. Lots of credits.
No, it was definitely cool to be able to see it, even if it wasn't on the big screen. The animation still holds up. The sequences were still thrilling. It was still as funny as I remembered. But again, my big takeaway is just how much mystery is kind of front loaded into this arc. And we had our speculation when we did our breakdown right after our theater experience, but I still you know, my mind is going in all different directions. Like, how exactly is this, upper one fitting into the picture? Who exactly is he related to? As well as Muzan rather, and his connection to the leader of the Demon Slayer Corps and whatnot. It's just a really strong opening episode for a season and an arc.
Yeah, a strong opening episode that leaves enough open, but is still satisfying. I think that's what it is
Mhm.
at the
Mm,
end of the day. But I'm not going to belabor the points because if you, for some reason, are joining us for the first time, definitely go check out our post movie review. I hesitate to call it a movie because it was just the first episode, but we totally went deep dive in depth. Check that out in our feed.
Yeah, we got 11 episodes. We're excited for each one of them. The last bit of anime news that we have is that Suzume hits theaters this weekend. I finally got a chance to check out Makoto Shinkai movie the other day, which I absolutely love. We're going to talk about that in the anime minutes. I'm going to watch one more tonight. And the fact that this is taking over like all of my theaters, IMAX theaters, and actually has
Yeah.
multiple studios is really fascinating to me. Like, it was just the song that was before Demon Slayer that caught my attention for this, but there seems to be a huge love for this director and what he puts out that it's actually getting this much attention in American theaters.
Yeah, the thing that triggers my brain immediately as for whether or not it's a big deal movie is because I've talked about it before. I'm a member of the AMC A list.
Hmm.
Hmm.
They do not usually put foreign movies on the A list because it's usually some foreign
Fandom
company.
events.
Yeah, like some foreign company brings it to America, so it's not technically an AMC film. This is considered an AMC film.
Hmm.
Like, so AMC is the one that got the rights, said, okay, we're going to put this in the theater. So that just immediately triggered me. But yeah, I'm super excited. I'm seeing it tomorrow night. Like, I am all in going to the opening with a bunch of friends. So it's going to be, I hope, an amazing time. I don't
Yeah.
know much about it on purpose. I'm going
Hmm.
in blind, just again, based on that song and the trailer alone of it's going to be a mystery, and I'm here for it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I could try to multitask while we're recording here, but I will probably immediately as we're done here go and find my tickets for it because I mentioned the last time we brought it up, but it played the trailer played again before my showing of John Wick Chapter 4. So that just kind of shows how much AMC is really pushing this and believes in it.
Hmm.
And yeah, it looks beautiful. So I did not get the opportunity to watch the previous films from the director, like we kind of talked about, but hopefully watching this movie and really enjoying it will motivate me to watch those movies, and maybe we can have a all encompassing conversation about this body of work.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
We might be an action animation podcast, but every now and again we might slow it down.
I
Of course.
guarantee after tomorrow night, I'm going to text both of you like, "Hey, you guys free to record on Sunday? I need to
Probably.
talk." Be prepared.
Yes.
All right, so that's it for the anime news. What I'm looking at right now seems to be an incredible voice cast for a DC project that we have coming up.
Yes, not just any DC project, the first DCU project under Mr. James Gunn's direction. DC Creature Commandos, they announced the voice cast for this, and I kind of knew that this was going to be a big start with the fact that this is the first show. I don't think I expected them to come out swinging like this,
Hmm.
especially knowing that they did mention they're going to try and cast voice actors that may reprise these roles in live action. I want to see every single one of these in live action now. So I'm just going
Mm.
to run through this list and kind of give an idea, and then we can talk about who these people are, what they mean, and how great we think it's going to go. So starting at the top, Indira Varma, she's best known for playing Alira Sand in Game of Thrones and Tala Durith in Obi-Wan. She's going to be playing the Bride of Frankenstein, who is actually listed in a lot of these articles as the main protagonist, which kind of surprised me. Then we're
Hmm.
going to have Frank Grillo. He's best known as playing Crossbones or Brock Rumlow in the Marvel world, and he's going to be playing Rick Flag Sr., the father to Rick Flag Jr., whom we saw in the other movies.
I got to talk
Mhm.
about how great Kingdom is on Netflix too by him.
Oh, interesting. David Harbaugh, just in everything these days, known for Stranger Things and the Red Guardian, the Marvel world, he's going to be playing Frankenstein himself, which is just A plus. I need this one in live action. Then Zoe Chow, whom I am pretty unfamiliar with. We kind of looked her up on IMDb, and she seems to be in many things, but not many things that are kind of associated with this. So it's going to be really interesting to see what she's bringing to the table. She's going to be playing Nina Mazursky, an amphibious scientist, not a character from DC that I'm really familiar with. And then the man, the myth, the legend himself, Alan Tudyk, K2SO, the chicken in Moana, the Duke of Wesselton, Duke Weaselton, Tuk Tuk from Raya, just so many things, including previously in the old DCEU as Mr. Nobody in Doom Patrol. He's going to be playing Dr. Phosphorus, a known Batman villain. Great memes I'm sure many of you have seen without even realizing it.
Put respect on Hey Hey the chicken's name.
Hey, hey, thank you. I could not remember Hey Hey's name when I was writing this up.
It takes a lot to hire a man like that to just make chicken sounds.
He went to Juilliard. Like, there's the behind the
Yes.
scenes of him being like, "I'm making chicken noises. I went to Juilliard." He's another one. Like, please let this show up in live action across from
Mm.
any Batman. I don't care. And then the other two, we kind of knew about these, but there is a little bit of news with them. Sean Gunn is a part of the show. We kind of assumed he was going to be playing the Weasel, but he is also confirmed to be playing GI Robot. So this is possibly him getting voice roles aside from just weasel noises the entire time.
Mm.
So that's going to be super fun for him. And then Steve, it's either Steve Agee or Agi. I don't know how his last name is
Agi.
pronounced. Agi, thank you. He's
Mhm.
reprising his role as John Economos from the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. He seems to be the Amanda Waller stand-in for this show, so he's probably going to be kind of leading the unfortunate group of, well, the Creature Commandos. So there
Mm.
you go. I've thrown all that out. I had the references ready to go. Obviously, I'm super excited about this. Like, my hype just went through the roof when I saw they announced this cast. So what are you guys thinking about this?
Yeah, I
I mean,
think
yeah,
this is. Go ahead. Okay. I think this is inspired casting. Some of these like really stick out to me as like the perfect choice. Like looking at Indira Varma, like she's got those high cheekbones. I mean, again, it's we're talking about voicing a character, but it seems like they very much are. Like I just can't help but think that like this casting makes me think that they want to introduce these characters in animation and introduce them into the live action stuff that will be coming later. Because yeah, Indira Varma, she's got these high cheekbones. She's kind of got like the hooked nose a little bit. So like when I think Bride of Frankenstein, she has all the attributes of that character. Frank Grillo, he's got that perfect, gravelly voice, known for playing a military tough guy, badass type. David Harbour, like, oh,
range.
he's great at the physical humor, and he's not afraid to just go all in on like a lovable monstrous character, I guess.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
imagine
those.
him falling apart as Frankenstein, like body parts just coming off, and he's like, "Oh
Yeah.
no, here it goes."
Exactly. Like he had some great physical comedy as the Red Guardian, and I didn't hear the best things about the Hellboy reboot, but he certainly looked good in the prosthetics and whatnot. So yeah, those are kind of the standouts for me. I mean, obviously Alan Tudyk is great in everything that he does, and I do agree with you that the Sean Gunn and Steve Agee were kind of givens. But yeah, that's kind of what's sticking out to me. I'll give Zuhair a few things to speak on, so I'm not hogging all the glory here.
Yeah, not too much for me to add. Just that we had this conversation in the Stranded Panda chat on Facebook this week about like if superhero fatigue is starting to become a thing. And my response to that was that like I don't have superhero fatigue or even MCU fatigue. It's just kind of like they've been whelming with the stories. And my excitement from just reading these notes of a voice cast shows like how it's like, no, it's not a fatigue. Like, give me good story, give me good directing, give me good acting and action, and like, give me something to be excited about, and I will 100% hop back in. My Hero Academia has really set a standard of like what you can do with superhero stories. Like, clearly has not been doled out. There's a lot of imagination. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to be had, and the fact that James Gunn and his wild, beautiful, weirded out mind is able to put something like this together definitely has me excited for the future of DC content.
Well said.
Yeah, so that's it for our DC news. And to ride up the excitement of new content, Gendy Tartakovsky's Unicorn Warriors Eternal is coming out. What do you have to say for that, Jay Scoots?
Now, listeners, you might be saying, "Hey, wait! I thought this was supposed to be news from the week of April 6th to 13th. This came out March 29th." Okay. We had a lot to talk about last week, and I totally forgot about it, but I wanted to mention this. Yeah. Last week, March 29th, Adult Swim unveiled the trailer for this. And this 10 episode miniseries will debut on May 4th. Again, May the 4th be with you. A lot of content on that day. It's premiering on the Adult Swim network at midnight and streaming on the formerly HBO Max, as it is now, the next day. So, to give you a little insight into what this story is about, Unicorn Warriors Eternal narrates the story of a group of ancient warriors who, through innumerable reincarnations, have spent many decades trying to stave off the evil forces in a world that has been troubled by a demonic presence since the beginning of time. Kind of sounds like Samurai Jack there. That'll come up later.
Ooh.
The voice cast consists entirely new names. Melinda, a powerful sorceress, is voiced by Hazel Dupé. She is joined by Damari Hunt in the voice of Singh, a cosmic monk, with Victor Ali voicing adult Singh, or maybe Senj. Not entirely sure on that one yet. Eldred A warrior elf is brought to life by Tom Milligan, with Ron Botita joining as the father of one of the teenagers. There is no mention of who will be voicing Copernicus, a steam-powered robot from the future. Genndy Tartakovsky has brought us cartoons such as Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack, Primal, the 2005 Clone Wars microseries, and he directed the first 3 Hotel Transylvania films. So clearly I'm excited about this one.
Yes, I mean, Tartakovsky is one of those, for lack of a better word, it's just artist. Like, I
Mm,
don't look at many of the things that he did and think, oh, this is just animation. This is just a thing for kids. Like, even Dexter's Laboratory has some just incredible notes to it. But then you look at all of the other things that you listed. The Clone Wars microseries is absurd in the way that it is shot, directed, and written, but is such an interesting piece when it just comes in as art. Like, there's the entire scene where the clones just aren't talking to each other and directing everything around, and it's just like,
mm,
what even is this? And Samurai Jack, goes without saying, is one of the most legendary gateways, I would say, for like adults in animation. Like, it really, I think, is a way a lot of people said, oh, animation is something more than just like a kids thing. And yeah, I don't think there's anything better to say than he's a visionary, and this
mm.
just sounds like another interesting piece from the mind of an artist.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add to that. Dexter's Lab and Samurai Jack and that Clone Wars series was absolutely incredible. You know, like a staple of my childhood. And anything that's in the setting of magic and swords, I'm instantly attracted to. So just by these like stills that I'm seeing on Google right now, like I'm sold on this.
Yeah, it looks beautiful and captivating. I can't wait.
That and Scoot's excitement is all I need.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's it for the news that we had this week. We are going to get to feedback next that have been sent in from the listeners.
Cool.
So if you guys are excited about any news, if you have anything to say about any of the shows or movies that you're watching, if you have recommendations on stuff that we should be watching, animation deliberation podcast at gmail.com, or DM us on any of the social platforms that are you can find by just searching animation deliberation. The first bit of feedback, actually, all of our feedback is regarding to the Mario movie this week, and the first one that we have is from Cameron Cody.
And Cameron wrote in and said, I love the movie. I give 4.5 out of 5. I grew up with the series and loved every minute of this. I enjoyed how they included the power ups and the platforming of the older games. I really enjoyed the quote tutorial that Mario got while he was taking the test that Peach was giving him. I felt the frustration that he was having during it because I went through the same thing with the old games. It was clear that the writers and creators knew what the fans wanted and executed it near perfectly. My only complaint is that they didn't include Giant Mario. I was fully expecting that when Bowser arrived at the Mushroom Kingdom. Nevertheless, the ending was amazing. Looking forward to more animation discussion on the movie.
And that is by General Code 24 or Super Iron Man, whichever name you want to use. Fun thing about Super Iron Man, so for the Fantasy Heroes League that me and Sarah Day run, we have
Mhm.
a Discord for the patrons. And somebody suggested when we first started off that everyone should have like a superhero name to make it more fun. Like, it doesn't even have to
Mm.
be like strictly Marvel, like it could be made up, whatever. So he went with Super Iron Man, and I actually didn't know his real name because I was so used to seeing that. So I was glad that he added that tag at the end. I was like, oh, okay, this makes a lot more sense.
Nice.
I picked Red Dagger for that because I had to pick the Pakistani dude with knives.
Of
I like
course.
it.
I'm glad that you took over because I thought there was just a typo in here. I was like, what is General Code 24? Did we misplace something in here? Like, there's no
Nope.
context in our show notes for the listeners. I'm just staring at it, staring at Zuhair. Like, what do I do? Do I say something?
Nope, he is a man of very cool names.
Awesome. We
Yes.
do love that.
Yeah.
So one of the big points in here is that he was talking about how they didn't include certain things. And I feel like everyone that I've talked to about this movie has said that in some capacity for different things. And that's what I love about it is how much they were able to put in this movie without it feeling crammed. But we could possibly have sequels to this and more stories with this and
Oh
more
yeah.
versions of this. Whether it be a Smash Brothers, joint universe or they stick with just Mario stuff, the fact that we can still do Wario and Waluigi, and there's other aspects to the game that they can play with, like it really can go any direction. They have plenty of tools to play with.
Yeah, I
Definitely.
mean, Mario might be one of the deepest well in terms of ideas, period. Like, there are
Hmm.
games that haven't been touched for decades. Like, I can't think of a single thing that came out of Mario 64, or I guess the Penguins technically, or Super Mario Sunshine. Those are two of the
Mm.
best selling games that they didn't even really touch. Like, give me a Pianta on screen, please. And I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who don't even know who the Piantas are. And that's like one of those, it's a deep cut for true Mario fans. Piantas, they're tree people. It's weird.
They're
But I
the
love
Putting it
them anyway.
myself for
inhabitants
the
of
record.
Isle Delfino, right?
Yes, they are the
I,
inhabitants of Isle Delfino,
w-
alongside the Nokis, I think. They're the little
okay.
shell people.
Yeah. I played Super Mario Sunshine. I had a GameCube, well past, its glory days, for lack of a better term. And one of the little sound bites that like forever has rent space in my head is whenever you would approach one of the, I didn't know their species. What's the species again? Pianta?
The Piantas, yeah, the big
Yeah.
tree people.
Yeah. Whenever you go to them and they start a dialogue box, they do this little muffa. It's like always
Yeah.
stuck with me.
You say yours is well beyond your prime. I just turned on my GameCube like last week
Oh,
that still
wow.
runs Mario Sunshine. It's sitting in my living
Wow.
room. I just brought it home. So when I talk
Nice.
about the Mario games, I am like living in that nostalgia. So yeah, there's a real well of untapped things that I agree. They didn't bloat the movie, but there's still plenty for them
Yeah.
to do.
Mm.
Yeah, I never had a GameCube. My dad used to have stores at the mall over here, so I used to take turns between going to Sears and going to GameStop for like the little when they had the consoles like set up so you could try the console out. Like
Oh my god, I
that's what I would
forgot
do
about
after I
that.
finished my homework is like walk back and forth between those two stores to be able to play games. So that was my exposure to the GameCube because I didn't have my own.
Nice.
The one Mario thing that I didn't see that I was expecting in this movie is seeing somebody throw a penguin off the edge of a cliff. So
That would have been too funny for them
that's
to have included.
that still remains.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to our email from Andre Sparks.
All right. Andre says, "Hey guys. So like I said on the Stranded Panda chat, the movie was great. The music was great. Like every time they introduced a new world, it felt like the music made it even better. The flashback to Baby Mario and Luigi was great. It made the ending sweeter. Lastly, the Princess Peach backstory explained a lot. Definitely thought when I was little, why was she the only human with a bunch of toads? Her just wandering in and then being raised definitely had an emotional impact. All right, gonna play at least one Mario game now. But which one? Which one? Uh,
Ooh.
Andre, and he has a PS here. If we could get a non Mario Nintendo movie, what would you guys pick next? I want Zelda live action, so I'll say Metroid or Kirby.
I second Kirby.
He
Kirby's an
takes,
interesting one.
yeah, I would love to see Kirby, but he took kind of both of my answers. Like, I don't need Zelda to be live action. It would be cool to see it live action, but I would definitely take it animated. I think it would work really well in like a anime style, or even like we were talking about Studio Ghibli. I think that would be like the perfect kind of rendition, or even if they wanted to embrace like the Toon Link that we saw in Wind Waker or the Four Swords, or obviously Breath of the Wild has been huge, and we've got Tears of the Kingdom just around the corner. Like
Hmm.
I love that art style too. But he does take my second pick with Metroid. Like, there's been all this talk about like, is this the first entry in a shared universe that will lead up to a Smash Brothers film? And if that is the case, Legend of Zelda and Metroid are the highest up on my list in terms of what I want to see
Yeah.
next.
I wasn't even thinking live action because I was so focused on thinking of that the Smash Brothers universe. And Kirby like Nightmare and Dreamland was one of my favorite games for Game Boy Advance. I definitely want to get it for the Switch if it ever hits sale, which it's Nintendo, so that could be 20 years from now. And just to get $5 off. But with the ridiculous amount of detail that was in Mario, especially when they were in New York, like how lifelike everything looked, I can only imagine what they could do. Specifically with Metroid, that has a lot darker tones. Like that's going to look
Mm.
lifelike, and it's going to be incredible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's they did a lot to bring those characters in, and I think the only question mark around Smash Bros is, you know, do all of these characters get their own movie? Because there's a lot of them that don't talk. Like, as much as I think Kirby's an interesting movie, Kirby doesn't say anything ever. So how does that actually work in terms of giving them a movie? It's a great thought, but
To be
it's
fair, Link
peculiar.
doesn't talk either. He just
To
does a
be
lot of grunting
fair.
and
Yeah.
sighing
Yes.
as
Like
you just sigh.
we were worried about Chris Pratt like doing the Italian accent the whole time too when they addressed that right off the bat. So it's like if it's the same crew of nerds working on it, like I kind of trust their judgment to just come up with something that is a good balance for the fans.
Yeah, I trust it, but I trust that if it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work, and that they kind of say that at the top and
Mhm.
just be like, all right, let's leave it here as it stands. But I mean, there's also all of the Final Fantasy and like Fire Emblem that have these deep depths of lore that they could totally tap into from Nintendo. So I think there's a lot there, but I do also want to touch back on Andre's feedback. The music, surprise to no one. I loved the music in this movie. It was like absolutely astounding. Like he said, getting all of the kingdoms, all of the transitions. And I think the single greatest moment that had the dumbest smile on my face was when they walked down into the sewers and there was a little sign that said now entering 1-2, which
Yeah.
is historically the underground sewer level, and you heard the da-na-na-na-na,
Yep.
da-na-na-na-na. I'm like, oh my god, they did it. They did the thing. They did. Oh my god, we're
Come
already here.
together.
Like it was so like that's my one thing is I don't know how many kids got the references in this movie, but like to the diehard adult fans,
Yeah.
I had so many things that made me absolutely just lose my mind. And I think the music may have been the most nostalgic part for sure. So thank
Hmm.
you for reminding me to say those things, Andre, because I almost forgot.
Oh, we were not shy about talking about it on our coverage either. So if you guys have just watched that movie and want to hear our excitement for it for a whole hour, go check out that episode of Mario Feedback. He talked about playing at least one Mario game now. In that same Patreon Discord channel, we have or in the server, we have a channel called Gamers Unite, and it's just just talking about games and nerding out and this and that. So when a few of the people in the group got home from watching Mario, they actually put a Mario Kart group together. And like
Nice.
I was busy, so I wasn't able to join. And I just like got home and looked at the chat, and they were just like smack talking each other and like playing the games over Discord and stuff. I was like, this is so cool.
I'm glad you brought that up because the whole Mario Kart sequence was so great, and like with Andrew, with seeing that 1-2, like how that made him like "Uh, they did it, they did it. For me, it was when the Kong ate the banana and then threw the banana peel and
Yeah.
caused like the huge wreck. Because when I played Mario Kart, I always play as Luigi, and I had some roommates, and like we had a tradition of always playing Mario Kart like as a nightly ritual, and I loved, getting people with bananas, and I had a little catchphrase like, "I hope you save room for some nanner pudding."
Don't make me hate
uh,
banana pudding.
that's great. I also realized we passed over the one Nintendo movie that is obvious. Somebody want to make a good Pokemon movie?
Mm.
It's because my expectation and standard was ridiculously high for that I was like, let me stick with Kirby.
Mhm.
Fair enough.
I was happy
Did
with
you guys not
Detective
like
Pikachu though.
Detective Pikachu?
I loved it. It was
Actually, yeah,
fun.
we hate on the Pokemon anime. The movies are actually probably where Pokemon shines the brightest in terms of their screen appearances.
Okay.
So,
That reminds me that the last bit of Pokemon is finally on Netflix.
oh, is it?
I have been dying to watch that tournament of champions. We are definitely talking about that once we get caught up. There will be tears.
Yeah.
Oh, there will be so many tears.
Like a part of it came up in the dub on my feed, and I started watching. I was like, no, 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 I want to watch this all together. I can't do this right now. Sorry, that had to be brought up. All right, so we are getting like really close to our hour mark, so we're gonna hit these minutes real quick. The first thing that I want to talk about is Your Name, which is one of the movies from the same director that did Suzume, Makoto Shikai, I think it
Mm,
was. I put that note away. And
mm.
it was one of those movies where I didn't watch a trailer. I didn't look at the description. My friend said, like, hey, watch Your Name and Weathering with You because they might be connected to Suzume in some way. So it's like, I needed to know more than that. I hit play, and the story, like, blew me away. I didn't know what to expect. The artwork and the music and just the emotions of it all was just absolutely incredible. And I highly suggest that you guys, listeners and co hosts as well, just hit play. Like, if you have the opportunity to get a recommendation and know nothing about it, by all means, it is such a wonderful experience that we just do not get often enough.
Wow. Hard hitting and a minute right there.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, I have 4 animinutes. I've been sitting on a couple of the. Actually, I've been sitting on one of these for a while, and then I've just had a busy couple weeks. But I have just watched a bunch of short animes. So I'm going to go in order of. The last is going to be the one that is like you should totally watch. The first ones are going to be a little bit more truncated. So I'm going to kind of start there. So I'm going to start off with Classroom of the Elite. So this show was a weird ride. It was a mix of puzzle solving and action anime, but it's that weird they're high school students still, and why do they hate each other and want to kill each other? Like there was a lot of interesting things going on and decisions to be made, but it was super gripping in terms of if you are the kind of person that likes that dark anime, that dark character, there is a lot of that going on in this show. And you're always just trying to ask those questions of like, what is this person's motives? What are they actually playing at? And how are we going to get there? It's honestly slightly adult oriented. There's some very big themes that go on, but yeah, it was a really interesting watch and a ton of fun if you're looking for something to really make you think and strategize along with the characters of the show. And then next is probably the one that I should have done first because this is the most anime of all of the anime. Chilling in my 30s after getting fired from the Demon King's army. Can you tell by the name that it's an anime?
Gotta love that title.
Gotta love it. Yeah, it's anime. It's fan service. It's all of the things that you could expect out of the women of this show the entire time. But it's one of those pure instances of I know what this story is. I know where it's going to go. It's a basic fantasy story with humans versus demons and all these things. But it just has that anime charm that the entire time that I was watching it, I was fully engrossed in these characters and invested in what this silly romantic dude was going to do after being fired from the Demon King's army. Like, it was just this ball of fun. It's very akin to many of the other you show up in some random fantasy world animes. And yeah, I don't have many things to say. Besides, the action was actually really good in the action scenes. Like, there's very few of them, but the ones that were there were top tier all the way through. So you're looking for something fun to watch about fantasy? There you go. Wow, these minutes are flying by. I'm expecting to be at like 30 seconds. I'm like, oh, I'm at the end. Okay.
Is your quirk wearing off?
My long wind quirk? Never. Never. The recharge period is water. That's what it takes. All right, these last two I'm actually really excited about. They're not, one of them is not in our action segment, and that's why it's going to go here. Tomo-chan is a girl. Absolutely amazing. If you even think you might like a cute romance anime, this is the anime for you. Oh my god, it's just so much fun because it has your stereotypical romance anime if you're waiting an entire season for them to hold hands, but like it's the definition of best friend doesn't know that their best friend is in love with them, and you're just watching this goofy group of friends that you can really embody with because they've written them so perfectly and so relatably that like you're so interested in it, and they have all the character tropes, and it's laugh out loud silly and funny, and it takes a lot to get me to laugh on my couch. And the entire time I was just like, this is amazing, what's going on, what's happening? And then by the end of every episode I'm punching a cushion like, just tell each other you love each other, do it. So yeah, if you want it, it's a great one, and it's very much like the tomboy in love with the man. So it gets rid of a lot of the stereotypes of like, oh, it's the perfect woman. So there is a lot of fun that happens because of that, and that's my minute. So yeah, give Tomo-chan a watch if you're looking for something lighthearted. And then this last one, I have a lot of things to say, so this is going to be a very packed minute. I'm sorry. Licorice Recoil.
Go plus ultra.
So this was Crunchyroll's original anime of the year. So it's not based on a manga, and it is amazing story. Without even spoiling anything, it's about schoolgirls that are trained to be assassins to keep the peace in Japan. And oh my god, is it amazing! The action sequences are off the charts because it's actual gunfights that you don't often get. The characters are super fun and invigorating because they are still these quirky, fun schoolgirls, but you're getting this dark twist similar to My Hero Academia of like they have to deal with real world situations and how they're going to again keep the peace in Japan, which is something that they talk about how it's a gray area and how it's all actually fake peace, and it just gets into the nitty gritty of what's actually going on behind the scenes, and it deserves so much more attention than I think I got, and like or that I think it got. The Crunchyroll awards were enough to say like I need to watch this, but if you're looking for a short anime, it's not very long, one season, bump this up toward the top of your watch list because I think it was one of the best animes that came out last year, up there with Spy Family and a lot of the other ones that we watched.
All
It's
right.
high
Well, if you're
praise.
wondering where Andrew was the last couple of episodes, clearly he was catching up on his anime.
I just disappeared into a hole. Licorice Recoil I actually watched like a month ago, and we just haven't had time with everything we've been covering, but it's been the one that I'm like, people got to watch this. This is so good.
Mm-hmm.
We'll add it to the never-ending list. I still got to finish Mob Psycho.
Yeah.
In regards to other stuff that I've been watching, Bo Fury season 2 is still going on, also known as I max out my defenses so I don't get hurt because we got to have the long ass titles. It's been a great show. I was waiting to watch it with my roommate, so we did binge 3 episodes, but he's out of town for a long period of time, so I'm not going to wait because I really want to podcast about it too. It is a fantastic show, and statute of limitation is now over. Aside
Mm.
from that, the D&D movie was pretty fun. It had some great humor in it. I did enjoy watching it in theaters, but I think it was overhyped. Like it was nothing mind blowing, but it really was a fun time at the theaters.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Good to
Aside
know.
from that, just, Ted Lasso coming out weekly, and that and Mandalorian just being an absolute delight every week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, my never-ending anime watch list is truly never-ending. Besides everything that I mentioned, I am currently watching Ranking of Kings. I'm like
Yay!
I'm like 3 or 4 episodes in, getting ready for what we just recently found out is the second season that just dropped. I thought it was coming later this year, and Jay Scotty, I think, thought it was a movie. So we're all over the
It,
place.
jury's still out on that one. We had so much news to cover, we kind of glossed over that. But yeah, apparently, as of the date of this recording, Ranking of Kings, the I'm gonna lose it, but the treasure chest or something like that. I apologize for butchering that, but when you check it out, let us know. What do you think? Is it going to be a mini series? Is it the second season? What exactly is it? But I'm delighted that you're watching Ranking of Kings. I started watching Ranking of Kings because a listener, Jonathan Kim,
Mhm.
recommended it, and it's excellent. It's just so heartwarming, so inspiring. It's just definitely taking this endearing character that has the whole world against them, and they're able to rise to the cream of the crop and show that like if you put your best foot forward and try your best, it does work out. So
So
Yeah, I'm not very
Crunchyroll,
deep. Oh,
go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I'm not very deep, but like 1 or 2 episodes, I loved the characters. Like, it might be up for my favorite anime crybaby very quickly, and like it's praise, I promise. Like I am so endeared to these characters. Like I just want to know what's happening next.
yeah.
Crunchyroll does have a new episode. It is 22 minutes, but it says season 33, episode 1 instead of season 2. So
Okay.
take that as you will.
Well, we're just a few seasons behind then, Jay Scotty. We got some catching up to do.
If you can find them. You got to watch season 2 on Hulu and 3 on HBO Max and 4 on a service that you can only get in
Mm,
Paraguay, and get your VPNs ready.
yeah. Yeah. I sat the anime out because I've taken a little bit of a break in between animes. I have a ton to watch, but there will be a time and a place for that, no doubt. I did start watching The Simpsons from the beginning. I did my rewatch of Futurama recently. Finally checked
Woo!
out Disenchantment on Netflix, both from Matt Groening, and it's just been kind of interesting going back to like watch the episodes that some of those predate me by just a month. The show debuted in December of 2000, or not 2000, 1989, and I was born in January of 1990. So it's interesting to see the show's kind of humble beginnings, and like, some of the animation is rough and rudimentary, but this still the writing and the characters that like have made this show last for 34 seasons are there at the very beginning. So that's been an interesting experience. Outside of animation, April is looking to be quite the month for horror fans. Evil Dead Rise, I was sold on that movie the second I saw the trailer, and there was that moment where the mother character, like the daughter, says, "Where's mommy?" And the mom responds, "Mommy's with the maggots now." I was like, okay, I'm sold. I will watch this movie. And then Beau is Afraid, coming to us from A24 director Ari Aster. He did a couple of my favorite horror movies in recent years, in both Hereditary and Midsommar. Beau is Afraid is starring Joaquin Phoenix and looks to be very different, but I am excited for it.
I'm too terrified to see that movie. I just can't even like Midsummer scarred me like nothing has in a long time, and I haven't even tempted Hereditary, so I'm just like, nope. This director does amazing work, because Midsummer was a phenomenal film, but I cannot do another one of those.
That's fair.
Yeah, I can't do horror movies. I'll confess that I don't have the balls for them. Like, someone really has to convince me to watch something for me to. I can't remember the last time I watched a horror movie in theaters. But two people who do watch a lot of it is Bill and Ashley. So make sure you check out Bill and Ashley's Terror Theater, which is also a part of Stranded Panda.
Have me on the show.
Well, on that note, if you are looking for our Stranded Panda shows, you can find all of those on strandedpanda.com, including us, all of our bios, and all of the other great parts of this network.
Yep. So thanks as always for tuning in. That's TOONIN.
And as always, stay whelmed.
And that was the news. Muscle.
Thank you for listening to the Animation Deliberation Podcast, a proud member of the Stranded Panda Network. If you would like to contact us, you can email animationdeliberationpodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter @animationdelib1. For this and other great shows, you can visit strandedpanda.com or join the great community that is the Stranded Panda Chat Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/svchat. Tune in next time, and remember, stay whelmed.